Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled People Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. My neighbor called the cops on my dad and really ended up regretting it. After that, my dad demands my salary. And after that, a crazy mom screams at me for not helping out in the emergency room. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to call the cops on anyone. I already have, Reddit boy. They're outside. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. My neighbor called the cops on my dad and really ended up regretting it. We live in a really quiet neighborhood. The road was never marked, so we used to park on both sides with one lane for cars to pass through. Our relationship with our neighbor was good up until now. He used to come in our yard to ask my father to teach him how to garden. When he goes on vacation, he tells us we can park in his land, which we never did because we have enough room for our cars, but that was nice of him. Until one day, he had a friend come over with a really large truck to help him work on his garden, and my father's car was parked in front of our house. The truck could not pass because there was our neighbor's car on the left and ours on the right. The neighbor didn't want to move his car, saying it was on his property, in front of his house on the public paved driveway, and he called us home to move my father's. No one was home except for my 13-year-old brother. He called my father to tell him about the situation, and my father told the neighbor to move his own car as he wasn't home. The neighbor refused and called the cops. They showed up and he explained. The cops were annoyed that they had to show up for this, and they took my father's keys to move his car out of the truck's way. My family was upset, but I was enraged because in my country, it's quite a big deal to call the cops on someone. So I took it upon myself to make it right. I started parking on his side of the road, and he came to me many times to tell me that it's his property. But as it was paved by the state and had plots put there by the city officials, I didn't believe him, and I told him to bring me proof that this was his land. He had a survey and came to me one day to show me that this was indeed his property. I said okay and didn't park on his side anymore. However, I called the mayor's office to tell them that I would like the city to pay for plots in front of my house and pave the driveway too, as they did for my neighbor. Turns out, my neighbor had a friend working at the mayor's office and unofficially paved his driveway and put plots in front of his house, not his property, to stop people from parking on his side of the road. It was deemed illegal, and a few days later, the mayor's office sent a guy to take off the plots, and the neighborhood had 2 more public parking spaces. It was petty, but it was worth it. If he had just moved his car, none of this would have happened. No need to say we no longer have a friendly relationship with him, and he's not welcome here anymore. My dad demands my salary. This is a true story. It's about my father. I might sound like a bad person talking about my own parents this way, but it's true. I'm no angel, and I've had a rough life. P.S. If you see me talking about money, it's in Indian rupees. $1 US equals 80 Indian rupees. To be honest, I had a rough childhood. The relationship between me and my father was really bad. I'm the second child, and I have an older sister. Apparently, my dad wanted another daughter. Hence, he started avoiding me from the day I was born. Like, he didn't even show up at the hospital that day, so my mom had to go to the hospital alone to give birth to me and come back home with me, the new baby. He avoided me so much that whenever my family would go shopping, everyone would get something with them. A cloth, toffee, or anything they wanted. I, on the other hand, would not have anything. If I asked for something, he would throw a huge tantrum. Let me come clean here. After a few years, after I turned 8 or 9, I did start arguing back. I started to push him to the extremes to make him feel what I felt like, but he would handle it all the same way, yell at me and mistreat me. Even until this day, I have social anxiety disorder because of the experiences I've had. Not only that, he loved throwing away my stuff. When I was young, I had a hobby of collecting things. My oldest memory is of me collecting shells from the beach. He would throw everything away, saying that it was worthless. I started collecting stamps, and he used all of them to send letters to his friends. I started collecting coins, and he threw them all in the toilet. I collected fossils. Not lying, I had fossils. He waited until I filled a full bucket of amber and other kinds of fossils and sent a verification to the archaeologist department to verify it. They verified it and said that they are original and could get me thousands if I sell them. I didn't want to sell and wanted to collect more. Days later, he took all of it and threw it away because, and I quote, "Carrying bones inside the house would bring demons inside." I gave up fighting him at that point. I was around 13 to 15 at the time. I thought that if I could bear a few more years, I could get my own life, with my own rules. When the time came for me to go to college, he wouldn't let me choose my favorite course. I was forced to choose IT, not regretting that, but it wasn't my thing. I just agreed and lived in the hostel. He went abroad for work after that. I thought I could live my life after that, but he doesn't let go of me that easily. He gave his number to like everyone in my college, my classmates, roommates, professor, etc., and he'd investigate me every day. If I don't respond the way he liked, he'd send my sister, family favorite, to get my mobile phone and make me realize what it's like to be lonely. After 4 hard years and 1 year of training, I got a nice job in an MCN that I've always looked up to. In January of this year, I got my first salary. I wanted to have a lot of fun with it, like having good food in a nice restaurant with my friends, going out on a hiking trip, etc. That's when he shows up again, after all these years, giving me everything I wanted. He'd have my food on the plate before I got to the table. The water heater would be on hours before I went to the bathroom for a shower, things like that. My mother, being the kind-hearted angel she is, warns me that he's doing it to get my money and nothing else. And just like she said, a few days later, my dad comes to me and demands that I send him 3,000 rupees. Like I said before, I was still a trainee. My salary was hardly above 5,000, so I straight up refused to pay him that much. He was working abroad, so I was sure he already had millions in his account and just didn't want to spend his own money. Then the blackmailing starts. My grandma, sister, uncles, and everyone in my family insisted on me paying my dad because family comes first. So after a lot of arguments, I decided to take the hard way around. I pay him the 3,000, pack my stuff, and move out. I removed my dad's name from the nominee and insurance list that my company provides. Free healthcare in all major hospitals throughout the world for the employees and 3 family members, which just has my mother's name now. Now I live alone, just a few minutes away from the main headquarters of my company. The story doesn't end there. He called me a few days ago asking me for another 10,000. This time he says no matter how much I get in my salary, I should send him 10,000 every month. If you're living with your expenses, you know that's impossible. To put that into contrast, I make around 25,000 a month. The room I live in costs 14.5 thousand per month in rent. Also, there are internet costs, food, tax, and other essentials that I need to take care of. So I just decide to ignore him a few days. I've made up my mind. I'm not paying him a penny after this. Even if it means that the money would save his life, I won't do it. I've suffered a lot, but that doesn't mean I'm going to help my oppressors and be a good hero. Everyone should own up and pay for what they're worth. So yes, the money is mine. I'm saving the rest of my money, salary minus expenses, up for my future wife, marriage, and kids. A crazy mom screams at me for not helping out in the ER. Hi, I'm a 28-year-old doctor, and my specialty is in clinical chemistry and laboratory medicine, so I usually do not interact with patients much anymore. This happened during my specialization training, and it still makes me shake my head. My colleague and friend in another department suddenly developed seizures in the middle of the night. Her husband contacted me, as I often helped her before they were married, and I was taking a midnight stroll in the campus as I was on call for the lab. I went to emergency and got all her papers ready. My junior from my alma mater was studying emergency medicine, and she helped expedite things. My friend arrived the same time another family involved in an accident arrived. Since my friend was still seizing, my junior asked if I could place an IV for the time being because they needed to look at the family involved in the accident while the neurologist arrived. No problem. The ED was extremely busy, and I was ready to help. I did everything for my friend, as one of the nursing officers handed me the anti-epileptic drug, while her husband, also a doctor but in another hospital, stayed by to make sure she was comfortable. That was when entitled mother tapped on my shoulder. Hi, can you help me? Me. Hi, sorry, I'm not an ED doctor, but I can guide you to who you should see. Aren't you a doctor? Me. Yes, but I'm not part of the ED. I'm here for my friend. So, since you helped your friend, can you take a look at my kid? Me. I'm so sorry, but I cannot. I cannot take responsibility as I'm not part of the emergency team, and neither am I posted here. When my friend in the ED gets better, I shall ask her to take a look. But you helped your friend? Me. Yes, because the team is busy with an accident, and since it's my friend, all I did was set an IV so that she'll be stable till they can come back and check on her. So, why can't you help me? I'm tired of waiting, and my kid is uncomfortable. Me, tired now. Lady, I'm not an emergency doctor, nor am I on duty. I cannot help you or take responsibility should something happen. Please wait for the emergency doctor to be free. Why don't you go to the registration counter? They will ensure someone looks after you. I cannot leave my kid alone. Why can't you take a look at him? Me, sighing. Where is your kid now and what is wrong? I cannot give any advice or do anything because I'm not part of the posted emergency team, but I can inform them. I need you to look at him. He fell down and he's crying. Me, just wait. Once an emergency doctor comes, I will send them your way. Now she's grabbing my arm. You will see him now. Friend's hubby, pulling me away and blocking her. You will leave her alone. She's not part of the emergency team. Stop harassing her. Karen. Help! Help! They are assaulting me. A charge nurse finally ran in asking what was wrong. I knew her as we were part of the same prayer group, so she asked my side first. I explained about my friend and how entitled mom was forcing me to help her son when I can't. Charge nurse. OP is a doctor, but she's not posted nor a part of our emergency team. We needed her to help her friend because we're super busy, but that's it. She can't help you. Karen. Stop giving excuses. You just don't want to help me. You? Me? Now, help me with my son or I will complain. Me, now annoyed. Go ahead. I turned away as Karen was dealing with the charge nurse as the neurologist had arrived and I had to talk with her and friend's hubby. I thought that was it. Wrong. As my friend got better and I was helping another charge nurse with the IV bag while she gave my friend another dose of anti-epileptic drug, my hand was suddenly pulled, nearly causing me to pull out the IV. Karen had grabbed me. Me, now really angry. What on earth? You again? What are you doing? You nearly made me rip off this IV. Karen. This is the doctor who refused to help me. I want her license canceled. Turns out she had dragged the emergency medical officer, the senior doctor watching over everything, to complain. The officer blinked as she knew I did not work in the ER unless I was posted there, which I was not. Officer. She does not work here. Karen. Yes, she does. She was fixing that woman's IV. Officer. She's part of the hospital, but she does not work in the ED. Since she is a doctor, she was just helping her friend, but that's it. She can't look after your kid unless I tell her to. Stop lying. Why are you covering for her? She is the worst. Friend's hubby. Officer, take this lady away. My wife is not well and she's been harassing OP too much. OP is already going out of her way to be polite. Officer agreed and turned to Karen. Officer, I saw your kid. He's fine. We are swamped today, especially since we had an entire family be admitted here. If you continue to create ruckus, we will ask you to leave and maybe even ban you. Karen. But I did nothing wrong. It's her fault. Officer, firmly. You have two options. You either leave them alone or you leave. Karen left us as she grumbled, and I heaved a sigh of relief. My friend had recovered, so we decided to have her discharged and have her checked up on in the morning. As we were leaving, we saw Karen glare at us and mouth words at us, but we ignored her. Friend's hubby apologized, but I told him not to worry, as none of it was his fault. Next morning, the story had spread in the whole hospital, and my guide told me to be firm and not entertain people who were like Karen. It's not very exciting, but it's not the first time I went through this. Since I have friends in the ED, I often go to see them and be treated so badly by patients and their relatives. Some days I'm glad I'm in the laboratory medicine and not in the emergency department. Sorry for the long post, but I was talking to my friend and we spoke about this incident and I thought to share it. Grocery store nonsense. This happened a few years back. I worked for a large grocery chain for 12 years. In that time, I worked all holidays, came in early, stayed late, rarely called out sick, and came in on my days off. I was treated like crap near the tail end of my time there when we had gotten a new co-manager at the store. He acted like I wasn't a team player. He stalked my Facebook if I called out sick, trying to catch me in a lie, since he was used to me coming in and working when I was sick most of the time, which I know is completely terrible in and of itself. In those rare occasions that I would call out, he tried to require me to have a doctor's note to excuse the one day I would miss. All while this is happening, people would come in late, be no-call, no-shows, and be out sick for weeks with management knowing full well that these people would be on vacation. All this with zero disciplinary action. Cue malicious compliance number 1. The store started cracking down hard on overtime, so they were used to me coming in early and staying late to make sure all tasks were completed with no complaints from management since it meant that it freed up other people, themselves included, from having to do the work. My department, which was just me, was constantly praised by corporate as being the best looking and cared for department they have seen in the entire Northwest. I took pride in my job and what I did, but this soon became me working just my scheduled hours. It resulted in incorrect orders, a fall behind in keeping the shelf stocked, and a massive amount of overstock adding up in the back room. People that were clueless as to what we had in the back room were tasked with fulfilling my orders and ordering things they thought we needed, but did not. It quickly became a crap show. They started letting me come in whenever I wanted and staying as long as necessary after about a month of fall behind. Cue malicious compliance number 2. I was really tired of being treated so poorly for the amount of time and effort I put into making my department perfect. I applied at a company that my friend had been trying to get me to come to for at least 5 years. Wasn't expecting to get the job, as I had very little experience in that company, since most of my working career was at a grocery store. But I figured, hey, the worst that would happen is I wouldn't get it and still have a full-time job with my current employer. Well, they absolutely loved me and quickly hired me on full-time. I put in a notice at the store that I had accepted a job elsewhere but was willing to stay there part-time to train whomever they hired to take my spot. 5 months go by and they hadn't even posted my position. They did nothing to fill my place. I ended up putting my 2-week notice in as I was so burned out working 60+ hours a week with my 2 jobs with no scheduled days off between the 2. I made sure that I was available to the grocery store for a huge holiday and my last day would be the day after. This lovely co-manager, mentioned earlier, thought he was hurting me by not scheduling me for the last week of my notice, which this holiday fell in. Other management tried to backtrack this and try to get me to come in anyway. But alas, the schedule had been posted, and as per union guidelines, they could not change your schedule once posted without consent from the employee. I shrugged at the co-manager and said, "Sorry, I wasn't on the schedule, so I made plans with my family since I hadn't had this holiday off for years." The rest of management was furious at this guy for trying to pull this power move, which blew up in his face. I cashed out my banked vacation time before leaving, which only capped out at 3 weeks' pay, but still, it was my final forget you. I hear from old friends and colleagues that this co-manager was demoted to a clerk in a small department. I work now for a far superior company who values their employees and compensates hard work. I had taken a huge pay cut when I took on this new position, but within 3 years, I was making more than I had been making in 12 years at the grocery store. Biannual bonuses, paid vacation, a massive amount of paid sick and vacation time, and a considerable amount of less stress. I almost got a Karen arrested. So, I worked at Panda Express my senior year and didn't turn 18 until a few months after graduating high school, but my parents allowed me more freedom than most in my circumstance. However, I have a lot of fun stories from this time frame, but this was my absolute favorite. There was a Target next to where I worked, and I often stopped by to pick up snacks or sodas before work. Because my work shirt was red, I often got mistaken for a Target employee, but nothing like this. One particular summer day, I went to Target while on break to buy a new water bottle, as I had accidentally broken mine during my shift and wanted to get it replaced. Corporate was really stingy and deducted money from our checks if we used the cups at work. And it was hot outside, so it was better to get a cheap replacement and a snack while on break. While I was wandering the store with plenty of time to spare, I noticed someone was following me. At first, I thought it was a coincidence, but after the 5th detour aisle, I realized she was following me. Being only 17, I was actually a bit nervous and finally mustered up the courage to face her. Me: "Can I help you with something?" Karen: "It's about time. I've been trying to get your attention for forever now." I often wore headphones as I had severe social anxiety and didn't like being in public areas that were crowded like this. Me: "Well, can I help you?" Karen: "Is that how you treat your customers? Talk about poor customer service." I was genuinely confused until I realized that she, like so many people before her, had confused me for a Target worker, despite the fact that I had a giant panda on the back of my shirt along with the company name. These types of encounters were normally pretty easy, but this lady wasn't having it. Me: "Ma'am, I don't work here." Karen: "Don't go lying to me like that. How dumb do you think I am?" At this point, we had attracted the attention of a few employees who called for their supervisor, S. As I tried to reason with this lady, the supervisor showed up and took over the conversation. Supervisor: "Is there a problem here?" Karen, this employee is walking around and ignoring customers. She was extremely rude to me and I want her fired. Supervisor looks at me and sees the Panda Express logo on my shirt. Ma'am, she doesn't work here. Karen, are you calling me stupid? At this point, she starts towards me and I backed away, trying to hide behind the supervisor while struggling to understand what her problem was. She reached around the supervisor and grabbed a fistful of my shirt before either of us were able to react. She tugged so hard at my shirt that it almost slipped over my head and I started crying at this point. Karen, see? She's wearing a red shirt, so she must be an employee here. I want her fired. Me, let go of me, please. Thankfully, one of my mom's friends happened to be shopping that day with her kids and saw this lady holding me by the shirt. She immediately walked up to the lady with her kids, one of whom was my age, in tow, and proceeded to grab Karen by her arm. My mom's friend, what on earth do you think you're doing? Get your hands off her now. Karen pauses for a moment and looks from me to the woman and back again. She's not a kid, she's a young adult. Me, still trying to get free. I'm 17, lady, and for the last time, I don't work here. At this point, you could hear a pin drop from across the room, and I thought Karen was going to just let go and leave me alone. However, she huffed and looked away, commented how being 17 practically made me an adult and was no excuse to act so rudely. My mom's friend, the employees, and the supervisor had enough by this point and were already calling the police, while my friend, who had seen me bullied all throughout high school, attempted to calm me down. My mom's friend wanted to know where my mom was, to which I replied that she was likely at home since I had been working. Then I explained that I had to come to buy a new water bottle after breaking mine. My mom's friend actually paid for my water bottle and told me to go back to work so that I didn't get into trouble, but she also warned me that the police might be coming by to talk to me. I didn't think anything of this and did exactly as she said, knowing that I was never going to hear the end of it from my mom when I got home that night. As my mom's friend warned, the police showed up at work later that day and asked a few questions, and my boss didn't seem to mind as I explained what happened as soon as I got back. I never heard what happened to Karen, but my mom told me to never let anyone grab me like that again, as they could be arrested for doing that. Am I the jerk for humiliating my husband in front of his coworkers when he implied that I wasn't as beautiful as the boss's wife? My husband recently got a new job at a private practice working for a cosmetic surgeon. He works on the business/financial end of the practice. The boss's wife is genuinely one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen. I do struggle with my self-esteem, so I will admit there were times I didn't want to be around her. I know that this is my issue and she has never been unkind to me, so it is something I was willing to work through because my husband is very ambitious and networking is important to him. I've noticed the men he works with talk a lot about the boss's beautiful wife when the boss isn't around, and I think it's kind of gross the way they do this. Recently, we got invited to her 40th birthday, and two of his coworkers were at our house and making a big deal about how they didn't know that she was 40. She doesn't look 40. This was right in front of their wives, one of whom was pregnant. At this point, I just feel bad for the women because all of their wives hate her and talk so much crap about her when she hasn't even done anything, just because these guys are gross. Someone asked my husband if he knew she was 40. My husband said, I mean, yeah, because she graduated med school and has been practicing for like 10 years. I'm not surprised. But Kim Kardashian is also 40, so it is doable. But she is married to a plastic surgeon. Of course she is going to be the most beautiful woman in the world. I was in shock that he called her the most beautiful woman in the world. Of course I don't actually think I am, but isn't he supposed to think that? I clapped back that she really is gorgeous, and who knows what I would look like if he gave me half the lifestyle her husband gives her. My husband immediately got quiet and tried to laugh it off, but I knew I heard him. He is very driven by money, and though he makes good money, he compares himself to guys who make more, and his boss is loaded. When they left, he asked me how I could humiliate him like that, and said I let my insecurities get the best of me. Everyone sucks here. You all sound very superficial. This poor woman does nothing but exist, and all of you talk bad about her because of your unhappy marriages. Grown people standing around talking about someone's looks like you're in an episode of some 2000s teen sitcom where the parents are the annoying B-plot you want to fast forward through. Everyone sucks here. You think that you're above it because you recognize that she hasn't done anything, but you're happy to use her and her husband as pawns in some petty little back and forth with your husband. Leave them out of your bickering. Everyone sucks here. You honestly both have insecurities to work on. He's not the most successful man in the world, and you're not the most beautiful. This is true for the vast majority of people on Earth, and it's fine. There's no reason to be that upset about it. Am I the jerk for refusing to move countries? My daughter moved to the US from Canada. Both my husband and I are in Canada, and we're working and live here our whole lives. My daughter left to be with her boyfriend, who she married and recently divorced. The father has left for his home country, and it's almost impossible to get him to pay child support now. She's going through a lawyer, but it will likely take years, and he doesn't have a job now, so she probably won't get much from him. Now she's a single mother with 2 kids, and childcare costs around $1,400 a month, making her $3,700 a month income not enough to support them. She wants me to move to Texas to look after her sons for her. I don't have any interest in moving to the US and told her to come back to Ontario, and she could move in with us and we can help her with her kids. Ontario also has affordable $10 a day childcare subsidy, though I'm not 100% sure if she would qualify. She refuses because she found a new boyfriend and wants to continue to live with him. I told her I'm not moving down there, and she can move up here. She has dual citizenship, and we can help her, or she can stay in Texas. She then tried asking for $1,400 every month to cover her childcare, which I told her I don't have, and she argued since her children are my grandsons, I need to help provide for them. I told her I will let her stay rent-free and help her babysit if she moves back, and she insists I have to move there or pay for her daycare costs because she wants to be with her new boyfriend. I was so annoyed she would stay for a man who she's only known for a few months, and told her to ask him for the money since she's staying in Texas for him, and she yelled that I was being heartless. Help me! Okay, here's some help. No, not like that. Help me by completely uprooting your life. Not the jerk. I suspect that your daughter is emotionally distressed at the moment and is not able to hear your side very well. However, her inability to accept your help does not mean that you are a jerk. The daughter sounds delusional. She's an adult. She cannot pay her bills, but doesn't want to be inconvenienced in any way. Instead, she wants the world to bend around her. Who in their right mind demands that their parents uproot their entire lives for the sole purpose of providing free childcare or give them large amounts of money each month? OP has been more than generous by offering to help with the daughter if she moves back, but she's more concerned about her new boyfriend. What happens if OP moves and the daughter finds a new boyfriend that she wants to run off to? Am I the jerk for not telling my parents about my little brother's school play and going myself instead? Ever since my mom decided she was tired of being a stay-at-home mom and got a job last year, along with my dad already working almost the entire day, I, male 24, have been taking care of my little brother, who's 7, most of the day. I buy his clothes, school supplies, food, and cook for him. My parents give me the money, of course. I usually tell my parents about how my brother is doing in school and what happened in the day, but last week I decided to omit that he was going to participate in a school play this Monday, yesterday. I didn't tell them because not only could just one relative per kid attend, but my brother also specifically told me he wanted me there. They could have gotten out of work early for it, but I didn't want them there, to be honest. While they didn't even know he had an act coming, I helped him rehearse, learn his lines, and even paid for his costume. I just don't think either of them deserve to be present. My brother takes his sweet time to change when he gets home, so he still had the costume while my mom came home from work. She asked me why he was dressed in a suit. He played a butler, and I told her it was his costume for the school play. She told me she doesn't remember any school play, and I said that I indeed didn't tell her or my dad about it. She got mad and said I have no right to hide stuff from her when it concerns her son, and that I was breaking the agreement we had. I told her she and dad didn't deserve to watch it, sent her the recording of the play I made, and went to my room. Today, they both have been acting cold, and I'm kind of regretting I didn't tell them before, since I'm all the time with my brother and I could have spared a day for my mom and dad and all of that stuff. Not the jerk. They neglected their parental duties and loaded them off onto you. Your brother wanted you there, not your parents, and maybe if they were asking him about his school day instead of you, they would have known about it. Am I the jerk for telling my daughter that she's getting what she deserves? I, 58, male, have 2 daughters. One from a previous marriage and another from my wife's previous marriage. Both daughters are around the same age. Think mid-20s. My daughter Allie has never gotten along with her stepsister Joanna. If Joanna invited Allie to a movie, Allie was suddenly super busy and had no time. If Joanna wanted to come with Allie to a party, Joanna wasn't invited and there was no way she could bring her. She'd rip up Joanna's things and would blame Joanna when she'd be grounded. Just the run-of-the-mill petty teenager BS. Joanna was a good sport and always seemed to take things on the chin. Her explanation was always that sisters fight. Until about maybe 3 or 4 summers ago, Allie was home from college and was going through a rough breakup that was causing her grades to tank, which put her on academic probation. Allie was upset and was taking it out on everyone, especially Joanna. My wife and I told her to cut it out, and she seemed to catch on that her behavior wasn't going to be accepted. Come to find out, after Allie leaves to go back to college, that she had completely destroyed Joanna's scrapbook with pictures of her dad and destroyed a lot of the shirts she had left of his. Joanna didn't make a stink about it in front of us, but that night the house stunk of E6000 and Mod Podge. You could guess what she spent the night doing. After that incident, Joanna had completely given up on Allie. Allie has a birthday coming up. Joanna wouldn't even sign the card. Allie is in town for the weekend. Unless it's a holiday or a family event, Joanna wasn't there. And honestly, we didn't blame her. Now the issue is that Allie wants Joanna to let things go and let bygones be bygones. Joanna is getting married soon and Allie wants an invite. It was brought up this past week at a family dinner. Joanna and her fiance, as well as their son, attended. Allie brought up how the kids were the same age and how it would be cool after the wedding if the kids could hang out. Allie has also asked what she should wear to Joanna's wedding and if she'd be a bridesmaid. Joanna pretty much laid it out for Allie that she wasn't coming and that the kids wouldn't be seeing each other outside of family events. The night was pretty tense afterwards, and I asked Joanna if there was any way she would forgive Allie. She said she wanted nothing to do with her, and I told her I fully understand that she carries a lot of hurt from how Allie treated her. Allie came to me after Joanna left and pretty much begged me to convince Joanna to move past things. I told her that had she been a more considerate and kind person back then, that maybe she'd have a chance at a relationship with her stepsister. I told her that she made her bed and she needs to lay in it. She said I'm a jerk and that any good father would want to see his kids reunite. Am I the jerk for telling her she deserves this?
Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video.
Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.